everyone, patch 9.9 shook up probably a bit more than we expected, so we're going to jump over into Korea and see what they've got for us that's a little bit new and a little bit different. I also have set up some more challenges on Icon, by the way. Remember that the more points we get right now, the more chance we have to win the RP and PCs to give away with the Alienware challenge going on right now. Basically, you can join our community, join in the challenges, like a few of these are for the builds in this video if you're going to try them anyway. Play your games like normal, nothing different with the app open in the background, and that's it. It's going to track everything on its own anyway. If we get more people enter, we stand a better chance of getting loads of RP to give away from the Alienware challenge, and you can compete against each other in challenges, so there is a link down below to join. So the first one of the video that we're going to look at today is top lane Tahm Kench, and I know this sounds very strange, but actually even before this, Tahm top lane wasn't that bad. They changed how his kit works a little bit, so he was basically too good in pro play, but that means they're going to nerf his Devour, his like get out of jail free card, his extra flash for the AD basically, and put some power in the rest of his kit. That power is what we're really interested in for top lane Tahm. The main things for top lane is more base health, more move speed as well, a little bit better passive damage in lane, a little more useful W when you're eating enemies and spitting them back out, but your Q is going to slow for more and for longer, has higher range, a slightly higher cooldown, but that helps a ton in the lane phase for top lane. So our keystone is going to be Grasp with the Undying. This is going to let us trade a little bit more and add a little bit of damage as well, but most importantly, we're taking Last Stand and Shield Bash. They have really good synergy with Tahm, probably better than anybody else really. Like when you get low, you're going to trigger your Last Stand, then activate the Shield, which keeps your Last Stand, but also activates your Shield Bash. He might seem kind of out of nowhere, but as we said, he wasn't that bad top lane even before this patch, and now he is stronger in the lane phase, and that is really why you're going to pick him. He's winning a lot of games from the leads that he gets in that lane. He's very hard to trade against anyway. He's very tanky. He does a lot of damage for a tank, and nobody really expects it just yet. You end up being able to protect people like a normal support Tahm in teamfights, right? But you're also a huge frontline. You can shield pretty much your entire health bar as your grey health. A little bit risky, but you can definitely do it, and you will soak so much damage and last so long as a tank. Let's go into our first AD carry of the video, and one that I expect will be a lot more popular as we get into this patch. We're looking at AD carry Jhin, but we're looking at a specific build, and I've tried this out and you chunk so hard. I've seen a lot of Koreans running a 2, 3, even 4 Infinity Edge build. Before we get into that, rewind a second, we had buffs in 9.8, right? Your traps now last 3 minutes, and the recharge time is going to be better later. Your ultimate also scales up to 300% based on missing health from 250%. So basically better traps and also better ultimate damage. Now we enter into this new build. So the first thing, your keystone is going to be back to electrocute for most people, at least in Korea. It seems a bit strange, but it adds a lot more damage. First up, there is only one part about this that does not stack, and that is the percentage damage increase on your crits. That is only going to be there whether you have 1 or 4. It's always going to be the same. The rest of it though is going to stack together. The 80 AD and the 25% crit chance. You could have an Infinity Edge and a Rapid Fire that would give you 50% crit. You could have 2 Infinity Edges that will give you 50% crit as well. The advantage of 2 Infinity Edge though is you have a ton of AD with this, like a massive amount of AD instead of having the longer range from your Rapid Fire. When we're looking at pure crit damage and when we're looking at your passive conversion as well, stacking AD on Jhin is going to allow him to snowball harder and burst harder, and that is why we do it. Up next, we're going to look at mid lane Neeko, and not everybody is going to run the build that I'm going to show you. Ludens is also very good, but it kind of makes you glass cannon. Glacial Augment is disgusting at the moment anyway on a lot of different champions, and for Neeko, it lets her set up her entire combo. Slow into your E is almost guaranteed slow into ultimate. You cannot really get away from that, and that is most of your damage as well. Neeko has very high base damage anyway. She does have good AP ratios, but you're not going to miss out on too much, and it turns her away from just a glass cannon, which can make her really fragile and easy to burst. With this build, you end up having a really good root, which was buffed obviously, so we don't really need to max this. We can just throw the first one out and empowered. It's great. You have your slows as well across the entire team, really good poke, and nobody can lock you down, so you're going to be great at kiting. The crutch of the build is GLP and Twin Shadows together. After that, you can really stack some more damage, some more utility. It doesn't really matter, but you do need those 2 items because that is how you proc your slow ray. Neeko is supposed to be a lane bully, and she is kind of back there now as well. Very strong in the lane phase with her wave clear and her pushing power. Her poke is really good. Her kill setup or gank assist is amazing as well, so it kind of attracts the jungler to your lane, which is never a bad thing. Moving into our jungle pick, this is one that I never really suggest because as Karthus, you can get bent over really hard early game and not really be able to recover. The jungle changes this patch have kind of changed that though and made it a bit easier. So the crab now spawns at 315, which gives you a bit more breathing room and also gives you level 3. For Karthus, level 3 is great, right? You'll have one of everything if you want to fight for it, and you stand a much better chance of not getting screwed at level 2. The build as well is almost always death cap third. I see a lot of people like rush into Azonius and stuff for the protection, but honestly, you just want to stack damage and press R and do a ton ton with that ultimate. A very common idea when we look at Karthus, or when people think about Karthus, is that he's a late game champion. And he is kind of, but in Korea, he is #1 at finishing games before 25 minutes. Especially this patch, if you're not getting as screwed level 2 of the crab, you have a bit better chance to farm up a little bit, get to your level 6, and then gank without really ever being in a lane. And if you snowball and that ultimate does a ton of damage, there's nothing the enemy team can really do. It really comes down to farming well as Karthus, getting a few items, and then pressing R to assist in lane fights. And just if they fight 2v2 or 1v1, that ultimate can really swing it, and you can gank without even being in that lane. In these videos, I always try and include one of every single role, but it's very hard to put a support in here because Nautilus is crushing Korea. Like, he's in most games, banned a lot, and he kind of dominates right now. I've decided to go with Sport Lux. It isn't brand new, but there is a new variation now at least, and she's still one of the best supports that you can play to really carry yourself. We have moved away from Aftershock to Comet most of the time now. It's more damage, but still kind of the same idea. Normally, you max your E into Q, which is your damage side of things, but you can actually do your E for the early poke and then into your W for a bigger shield. If you're going to do that, you kind of want to go for this build that I'm showing you. So Athene's Aren't Sensor and then into something like a Redemption. The idea with this is that you get away from just being damaged and you have a really big shield, which is going to buff everybody as well and steal a lot of AP actually from the Athenes. Lux as a pick is kind of like you have a bit of poke in lane phase, but you're sort of like a Morgana basically. If you think of it like that, you can catch people with your Q and with your passive damage and ignite as well. You can pick up kills with your AD carry, and that's really how you want to play. She's not very good at poke, but really good at that burst combo. That's even better at level 6 when you spike massively in power, and you can pretty much kill any lane in the game, no joke. If you set up your full combo with your QE and ultimate with the AD carries damage, someone is gonna die. The build works as well because your damage is gonna store up in the Athenes, right? It heals with your shield, which is gonna massively help in teamfight, and it applies sensor. It gets bigger with the items and the AP together. Moving back into our mid lane, we have another one that we can look at, which is mid lane Cassiopeia. It's weird because this patch she is massively spiked up kind of out of nowhere, but the short answer is in 9.8 she was buffed, right? Your E, your Twin Fang mana cost was lowered at rank 5, which means that you can spam this more in your early skirmishes and especially in your mid game team fights. You won't run out of mana as much. Build wise and everything like that, nothing has really changed. We're still rushing an Archangels, Rylai's into Liandry's, which is going to give you the burn and the slow together and make you pretty tanky. What has changed though is how you're going to play and kind of win with Cassio. So before, when you're maxing your Q, we had that kind of phase of Cassio. She was a really big lane phase bully. She would push really hard. She would kind of contain the enemy laner. She would poke with her Q as well. And it was really hard to play against. And you just get chunked without Cassio having to get close at all. Now though, we're kind of back to late game Cassiopeia, where you're almost like an AD carry, where you're firing out your E constantly, kind of like machine gun E, right? Where you're really high DPS output, not so much about your poke, but you're all in. Darius is a bit more obvious. He was changed in 9.9, right? A really good buff to his Q where the damage and the healing have been increased. It's healing now for 15% of your missing health, up to 45% if you hit 3 targets, and it does 10 more damage. We saw a massive increase in play rate in Korea from outside the top 10 to inside the top 5 now, and he's also one of the highest win rate top laners at the moment. The healing was obviously buffed, but it does kind of pair up and marry up really well with Conqueror, right? Because when you get that and you get a little bit low, like Conqueror is absolutely insane on those kind of bruiser champions anyway. It's definitely going to be contributing, that's for sure. And also in Korea, they basically always go Flash and Ghost. I know it's something that we do over here. I see some Darius got a Black Cleaver and stuff, but they are going Trinity Force, Sterix, and sometimes like a Titanic Hydra as well. It's a very damage heavy build. It's basically you pop your Ghost, you run at somebody, and you kill them, and that means you're going to scale into the game a little bit better. Darius isn't all just lane phase anymore. He's really good in lane, definitely, but he doesn't tank his win rate like he used to when he drops into the mid game. Honestly, a lot of it is just the Trinity Force build scales better into the game now as well. Like, you're going to be able to use your W for the auto reset, but the Sheen damage, and you'll be able to burst people like even later into the game. His ban rate actually doubled in this patch, and that could kind of show you just how strong Darius can be. We're going to go back to AD carry now, and I would not consider Lucian to be top tier anymore. Other AD carries are easier, they bully in the lane phase anyway, and just output more damage. Now, saying that, Koreans have a new build, kind of. It came up a little while ago, but this is the most popular now, I think, on Lucian. Nothing else has really changed. We're still running Inspiration, by the way, like even with those nerfs for the free boots, but the build is going to be Essence Reaver, Rapid Fire, and Infinity Edge. There is a small variation you can do to this as well, where you go Blade Ring King into Essence Reaver, but it does still delay your Infinity Edge to 4 items, which sometimes is going to be a little bit too late into the game. Blade Ring King has been nerfed recently. The cost was increased, and so it doesn't let Lucian snowball as hard early anymore, which is definitely a downside and why we've kind of migrated over to this build. Your ultimate will be doing less damage, by the way. This is something I really need to point out. It's not as easy to play either. There's no lifesteal and stuff like that, but it is more damage. It's kind of like if you want to play Lucian and you want to steal hard carry, it's a really good new build to try that can snowball out of control. Some matchups are really not that good though, like Jinx isn't at all. She has the range advantage and will poke you down before you can really dive in. Kai'Sa though, even Jhin as well. Lucian Lucian does pretty well against with this setup because you can kind of match their damage and definitely bully them early. Finally then, jungle Kayn has two very different builds, but we're going to focus on the assassin one for this video. Assassin is the most popular now, so that's why we're going to look at that as well, and it was also buffed, but red Kayn is really good. Conqueror with red Kayn is almost unstoppable. He is so good. You scale like a monster, you have a lot of crowd control, a lot of healing, and you basically refuse to die. As I said, we're looking at Assassin Kayn though, which you can tell by the build because we're going Warrior, Ghostspade into Dustspade. If you're wondering why we're seeing so much Kayn and why he's so much better now, it's because his E, his walking through walls, the move speed, the healing, that has a 21-second cooldown normally. When he transforms into Shadow though, it is down to 8 seconds without cooldown reduction. That was the buff, and that is why he's so good now. You're very slippery, you're very hard to lock down as you dive in, and it basically means that you can dive in and kill somebody and then probably actually get out again. Korea obviously love that you can one-shot people, and so that is why the Assassin build is going to be a bit more popular than the red build. But Kayn in general anyway, it scales insanely well. Like, you don't have to have the best early game because you can make up for that a bit later. So that's going to wrap up a look into Korea for 9.9. Thank you very much for watching the entire video. Remember to check out Mobalytics, which I'll throw a link down. Thank you for doing the graphics for this video, by the way. And also make sure you check out Icon. But thank you for watching until the very end. And for now, I will leave you with Robos.